that, you know, how do you increase the consciousness of the planet? Well, you start with yourself. It starts with yourself, and then it's a ripple effect. And just with that intention of improving yourself and improving your physical, your mental, emotional, and your spiritual well-being and development, just in that alone helps to start to change the vibration of the planet.
We recognize that labeling things in the black and white manner, this is good and this is bad, just doesn't work. Well, we have to replace this dualistic way of thinking with something more functional. And luckily enough, there is something a lot more functional. And that is the energy awareness-based discernment. In other words, a discernment based on a sense of energy resonance, which is always authentic.
Talking about spiritual development, as a person continues, and this is what I love about Qigong, is because it does not discriminate against anybody. What I tell my students is that it doesn't matter if you study Catholicism, Buddhist, a Taoist, does not matter, Hindu, it enhances what it is that you're already doing, because what's happening is that you're increasing your vibration. And to me, when they say to communicate with God or the Tao, the universe, to me, when somebody says that, it's not like, hey, Joe, what's going on? It's more of a knowing, right? It's more of this knowing. And that knowing comes about when the mind is silent. The more that the mind becomes silent, the more you're able to hear. And so the more that your vibration increases, regardless of what your spiritual practice is, you can't help but to develop.
That you can actually live without being in judgment. One time in particular, I posted something almost exactly like that, about when being in judgment, you're losing energetic currency. I posted this on social media, and somebody, one person that I was connected with, got so angry at it, he just blocked me because that was so triggering for him. And I of course, I non-judgmentally wished him well, and but it's this idea that you can respond to things appropriately without experiencing inappropriate emotional attachment to them.
I really liked what you were saying about non-dualism and religion, and I had a case example that I wanted to give from the Integrative Medical Clinic where I worked for 10 years doing Qigong. And I taught somebody, I was known for helping people with hypertension and helping people not to get medications. And this one person came in and I gave him a method, and he lowered his hypertension. And then I gave him a booklet that basically had a posture in it about the Buddha opens up his hands to the heavens. So he came in the next session and he said to me, "Can you tell me why you're not the devil?" And so I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I believe that Jesus is the only way. And you gave me this Qigong movement that had to do with the Buddha raising his hands to the heavens. And I believe that anything that's other than Jesus is the way of the devil." So I said to him, "That's great that you actually came back in to say that. You know, a lot of people wouldn't come back in to the clinic and say something like that. That shows that you're really a true Christian." And so he was a little bit taken back. And I said, "You know, the Buddha isn't really like a god or a god to be worshipped. You can basically do these Qigong exercises and imagine anybody that you want there. For example, you can raise your hands up like that and open your heart to Jesus, and then come down and bring Jesus into your own heart and lower like this and bring Jesus all the way down to your feet." And I said, "Try it." He goes, "Wow, this is so much better than what you taught me last week."
Interesting is, they all told me, I cannot really say they all, but many of them, they all told me that they felt the spirituality when they were doing Tai Chi. And I have someone who actually is a professor at a religious school and teaching Catholicism, and then there are all different, area and different religious background, but they all feel like the spiritual thing. So it is very interesting, and we all feel that way. I have a couple of books here, and to show you, I really recommend that everybody got this one. This is called Chinese Medical Qigong, okay? And this book is being used in the medical school in China, and doesn't matter you study Western medicine or Chinese medicine, you read this book.
To come full circle, this whole 8 hours has just flown by, and it's really been an amazing experience and an amazing opportunity. And I know that all of these teachers here have great offerings to share. A big part of my mission on this planet and why I wanted to be involved with this sort of thing is I want to see more people doing this, because I want to live in that world where more people are engaging in their own personal daily mind, body, energetic hygiene practices. Everybody have sound and video? Everybody hear us and see us?
Yes,
Excellent.
I can see you all and I can hear you all.
Great.
Excellent. So
Take it away, Dave.
So, well, I want to start by asking you a question, Mike, related to transpersonal psychology, because this is something that really stood out to me. Is the link between transpersonal psychology and spirituality, and the way I look at it is the three primary branches of Qigong being medical Qigong, martial Qigong, and spiritual Qigong. And medical Qigong is about health and wellness, and it's kind of like getting from sick to well. And martial Qigong I think of as like performance enhancement, tapping directly into flow states, as was one of the themes that came up in the course of this. And then spiritual Qigong is for exploring higher states of consciousness and other realms, so to speak, and which is what with the overlap with transpersonal psychology, transpersonal being outside the self. So but it's all the same set of tools. It's all the three regulations: body, breath, and mind, the body-mind practice, that are kind of the tools for doing all these things. So we try to get people in the door in Tai Chi and Qigong and in internal arts, integrative medicine generally. We try to get people in the door with going health and wellness, the medical Qigong aspects, going from sick to well, and then for people who are already well or doing great and they want to perform even better, they're already high performers and they want to perform even better, for performance enhancement. So I'd like to hear a bit about this, the perspective from like spirituality, the transpersonal crossover with Qigong, and how all of these same tools for health, wellness, performance enhancement also allow us to explore the transpersonal realm.
Thanks for asking the question. I think it's unnatural to have transpersonal psychology integrated with Tai Chi and Qigong. And that's been my work for many years. And I'm looking forward to more and more people getting involved with that. So the way I look at it is every Tai Chi movement has 4 dimensions of purpose: self-healing, spiritual unfoldment, self-defense, and changing your life stance psychologically. So all of those 4 elements are really there in any movement. And so, for example, if you look at Repulse Monkey, what I continually learn from my patients, because in the middle of a session, somebody will be trying to speak to their father that they haven't spoken to in many years because he always talks over her. And she says, "Dad, you need to listen to me." And the person goes and just spontaneously, knowing nothing about Tai Chi and Qigong, going like that in a session, because she wants to welcome her father, but at the same time, she wants to create boundaries. So the way I look at it is every Tai Chi and Qigong movement is a hidden alphabet that is a tradition of postural initiation that helps us to shapeshift into the posture that we need at a given time to heal ourselves, to achieve spiritual states, to defend ourselves, or to change our life stance psychologically. And that I think that transpersonal psychology, and by the way, transpersonal psychology isn't just about beyond the personal, it's also about through the personal. So basically, there's both elements of it, where you're basically using the archetypal energies to be able to embody, to shapeshift into different stances, like a monkey, a bear, or whatever, and then have that stance in relationship to something that you're dealing with in your life that's difficult and is getting you dysregulated.
Brilliant.
Yeah, there's everything psychological, everything physical is psychological, and everything psychological is physical. The analogs of this, and this speaks a lot to the mind-body, not connection or even duality, but the mind-body unity that I know Lama spoke to earlier. So, I'm curious to hear some other perspectives on how Qigong and internal practices relate to spiritual exploration, and how spiritual exploration relates to the present theme of boosting resilience through tough times. Who else has some perspectives on that?
So, yeah, in the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Difficulties, they talk about how your heart houses the mind, which is the Shen, which is your spirit. And what I tell a lot of my students is that, you can tell somebody's spirit, the strength of their spirit, by how bright their eyes are, and the more sparkly their eyes are. So I really appreciate what you're doing, with using the psychology, with the Qigong and the Tai Chi, because when we look at mental health, this is something that's not really talked about in this country. I mean, it's been something that's been overlooked for many, many, many years. It's actually it's a tangible tool that people could utilize. And when you look at somebody's eyes, and if they have that dull, lusterless eyes, then that means, okay, well, the heart orifices are obstructed. So what's going on with the person? But talking about spiritual development, as a person continues, and this is what I love about Qigong, is because it does not discriminate against anybody. What I tell my students is that it doesn't matter if you study Catholicism, Buddhist, a Taoist, does not matter, Hindu, it enhances what it is that you're already doing, because what's happening is that you're increasing your vibration. And to me, when they say to communicate with God or the Tao, the universe, to me, when somebody says that, it's not like, hey, Joe, what's going on? It's more of a knowing. Right? It's more of this knowing. And that knowing comes about when the mind is silent. The more that the mind becomes silent, the more you're able to hear. And so the more that your vibration increases, regardless of what your spiritual practice is, you can't help but to develop.
I want to chime in, and I have been teaching Tai Chi for years, and I have taught thousands of people, both in the US and overseas. And my students, and they have all different beliefs. And interesting is, they all told me, I cannot really say they all, but many of them, they all told me that they felt the spirituality when they were doing Tai Chi. And I have someone who actually is a professor at a religious school and teaching Catholicism, and then there are all different, area and different religious background, but they all feel like the spiritual thing. So it is very interesting, and we all feel that way. Yeah.
And that's very interesting, because when people come from different religious backgrounds, they also bring along with them different religious baggage. Now, not to be harsh on various religions, even though I'm known for being harsh on religions because I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm highly spiritual, but not religious. There's a lot of maybe even misunderstanding when it comes to what spiritual means. And so essentially, when people put labels like this is good and this is bad, that's often is informed by some kind of indoctrination. But what's good for one person often is not so good for another person. Just like what's bad for one person may not be so bad for another. That's not all. When we consider that something is good, that often doesn't have perpetuity of goodness. In other words, things spoil, things change. And similarly, when we deem something bad, it may turn out to be not so bad next day or next month or next year. In other words, there is no social agreement about what's good and what's bad. And there is no continuity of these labels. Well, it means that they just don't work. If labels don't work because nobody agrees about them, and even if you are the same person who put the label and then it doesn't work next day or next month, that means these labels just don't work at all. Well, basically what we do then is we recognize that labeling things in the black and white manner, this is good and this is bad, just doesn't work. Well, we have to replace this dualistic way of thinking with something more functional. And luckily enough, there is something a lot more functional. And that is the energy awareness-based discernment. In other words, a discernment based on a sense of energy resonance, which is always authentic. It means that if somebody comes along and says, hey, that thing, for example, whatever this thing is on your wall, this is no good. This is just really bad. Well, I say, well, if you don't resonate with it, I totally respect that. Now, I resonate with it, therefore, it's hanging on my wall. Now, there is no argument about this is good or this is bad. We're not talking about that anymore. We actually are kind of talking about completely different subject matter. We're talking about energy resonance. If we use energy resonance, which is exactly the subject matter of our studies of Qigong and Tai Chi, we can actually transcend most of the spiritual confusion that is associated with thinking in black and white terms. And that immediately puts it into a completely different level of personal development as far as I'm concerned. We stop operating and making choices and decision making based on judgment and start making decisions based on discernment. Well, that is like a dream come true for pretty much anyone who pursues personal development, isn't it?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, this distinction between judgment and discernment is huge, and those specific terms I think are really important, because the way I define those things, at least, judgment means that you're judging something as good or bad and you're having an emotional reaction to it. Discernment means that you are aware of what is, and you make decisions appropriately in accordance with your values. And so it can be a hard idea for people to wrap their ideas, or a hard idea for people to wrap their minds around, that you can actually live without being in judgment. One time in particular, I posted something almost exactly like that, about when being in judgment, you're losing energetic currency. I posted this on social media, and somebody, one person that I was connected with, got so angry at it, he just blocked me because that was so triggering for him. And I of course, I non-judgmentally wished him well, and but it's this idea that you can respond to things appropriately without experiencing inappropriate emotional attachment to them, and without judging them as right or wrong, good or bad. You can, discernment and preference are the two key things. So it's completely possible to live without being in judgment, and this goes back to a lot of the fundamental Taoist principles, the fundamental tenets of Taoism, how things are, not good or bad, right or wrong, they just are. I think Michael wants to share something about like non-dualism.
I really liked what you were saying about non-dualism and religion, and I had a case example that I wanted to give from the integrative medical clinic where I worked for 10 years doing Qigong. And I taught somebody, I was known for helping people with hypertension and helping people not to get medications. And this one person came in and I gave him a method and he lowered his hypertension. And then I gave him a booklet that basically had a posture in it about the Buddha opens up his hands to the heavens. So he came in the next session and he said to me, can you tell me why you're not the devil? And so I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I believe that Jesus is the only way. And you gave me this Qigong movement that had to do with the Buddha raising his hands to the heavens. And I believe that anything that's other than Jesus is the way of the devil. So I said to him, that's great that you actually came back in to say that. You know, a lot of people wouldn't come back in to the clinic and say something like that. That shows that you're really a true Christian. And so he was a little bit taken back. And I said, you know, the Buddha isn't really like a god or a god to be worshipped. You can basically do these Qigong exercises and imagine anybody that you want there. For example, you can raise your hands up like that and open your heart to Jesus, and then come down and bring Jesus into your own heart and lower like this and bring Jesus all the way down to your feet. And I said, try it. He goes, wow, this is so much better than what you taught me last week.
It's essentially the same movement that any child performs when it wants to be taken up in a parent's arms.
Right, but exactly, the idea of Qigong and Tai Chi is we're getting to an energetic place that's beyond religion and beyond dualism, but we need to be very careful about people's sensibilities and being resilient enough that when we're being criticized or attacked, that, you know, even though we're going to feel defensive inside, that we can find a place that opens our heart to the person that's criticizing us.
That's why we study martial arts. Instead of reacting when a strike is coming, we learn how to respond to it.
Exactly, respond rather than react.
Well, one thing is, Lama, you had a question while I was teaching the self-grilling, and you say, how can self-grilling using in the so-called push hands, right? And some of you, the audience probably know push hand is a two-person drill in the Tai Chi Chuan, you know.
Pretty much everybody here has done a little bit of push hands with me, right? Except for Dane.
Okay, good. So it's a two-person drill. And the thing is, in the philosophy of Tai Chi Chuan is self-defense, even though it's a very powerful offensive martial art, but the theory is, or the principle is self-defense. So let me just get up and just show a little bit. So for example, you know, I'm talking about the single arm. You know, if somebody throw me a punch, I just grab that person's arm because he's coming to my chest, right? I turn my body by sitting the quad this way. He's coming into this way, will not hit me, right? And at the same time, I'm borrowing that person's energy and then go bye-bye. So the person, I deflect that person's energy and then go to the emptiness. So yeah, and that's how it is done. So, but there are a lot of different maneuvering, and in the Tai Chi Chuan we learn, and then can all be used in the push hand exercise.
Well, actually, my question was not how to use this in the context of push hands. My question was, what are the benefits of these practices when they apply to improving resilience and optimizing our immunity, which is the subject matter of our seminar today.
Say that again.
My question was not about how to use this in the context of push hands.
I see.
But rather how, what are the benefits of those particular exercises when it comes to improving resilience and optimizing our immunity.
Optimize our what? Immunity?
Optimizing immunity, meaning not too much immunity, not too little immunity, just right.
Well, okay, and I think many of you already mentioned the health benefit of doing Tai Chi and Qigong. And as a matter of fact, I have a couple of books here and to show you. I really recommend that everybody got this one. This is called Chinese Medical Qigong, okay? And this book is being used in the medical school in China. And doesn't matter you study Western medicine or Chinese medicine, you read this book. And this book has been translated into English, and many of our top medical schools in the US and around the world, and if they teach alternative medicine, they use this book as well. And in this book, it's talking about the Qigong, and it also mentioned, Tai Chi Chuan is a branch of Qigong. And another book I'd like to share with you is the Harvard Medical School Guide to Tai Chi. And both books, and you're talking about the health benefit from different angles. And so it is very good. So the self-reeling exercise I was sharing with the audience, and it is the foundation of Tai Chi Chuan. And so it really helps us to improve our health, and then improve our, at the same time, improve our Tai Chi Chuan's power. And so your question is how does that, how should I say, improve our immunity, right? And when our health has improved, and it definitely increases the immunity. And there are different, explanations, and study show, that it will improve our immunity. And I hope I answered your question.
Well, it didn't answer my question whatsoever. At least you made references to some information that might be able to provide me some answers. So thank you.
Yeah, I know this is all good information for somebody who needs to hear this, and something I'd like to hear. I'm curious to hear your perspectives on this, as honest and unfiltered as possible. Do you think the world, on balance overall, pandemic and everything, just the big picture, do you think the world is getting better or getting worse? Deep down, what do you really believe about it?
Did you not hear anything that we were talking about when it comes to letting go of good and bad and replacing it with energy resonance? Or you think
Yes,
that better
I'm
how different from good and bad?
I'm speaking from perspective of the limited perspective of language, for which there are no better words. So of course the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. But what I'm asking about is your fundamental sense optimistic or pessimistic or neutral about the future of humanity in the world? Is the world going to hell in a handbasket, or is it getting better all the time?
You're asking all of us this question? You're asking a particular person?
Yeah, and anybody who has a perspective on that.
Yeah, I personally, each week we do multiple free Qigong classes on Zoom, and it's touching people around the world, even people that never have taken Qigong before. And somewhere early in our conversation, we'll talk about religion and knowing your audience, right? And knowing, who you're talking to, being aware of what you say, because it could be offensive, but being able to have it to where it's approachable. And I think the mere fact that people are isolated and they're looking for things that they have to do, because it's not natural for us to be isolated, but they're seeking. The fact that they are seeking shows that the vibration's increasing. And the fact that I notice in our neighborhood, the animals that normally stay up in the foothills are coming down into the streets now, shows that the vibration is changing. And so, and what I recommend to the students that take these Qigong classes is that, how do you increase the consciousness of the planet? Well, you start with yourself. It starts with yourself, and then it's a ripple effect. And just with that intention of improving yourself and improving your physical, your mental, emotional, and your spiritual well-being and development, just in that alone helps to start to change the vibration of the planet, and it starts to draw in more of that. You know, it's like Lama, I think you were talking about at some point about the vibration of people. Like if you resonate with a certain painting or music, everything is a vibration. And once you understand that, then you understand, like, okay, my thoughts, you know, what the Taoists, they have a saying, what is it? Your thoughts are louder than thunder in heaven. Yes, and because that Wu Ji, that all knowingness, all nothingness is that emanates through all living things, seen and unseen. Why or how we think and what we're doing, our actions then transfers over. So right now with this pandemic thing going on, it's really allowing for us. True, there are still some people stuck, frozen in fear, and that's where I hope that this show, thank you, Lama, for putting this on, touches so many lives, because to get them, if they are stuck in fear, frozen in fear, saying, hey, you know what, there's something that I can actually do, take control over my own mental, emotional well-being, and not be stuck in that place.
Well, I'm so glad to know, Sheldon, you are also offering the free Qigong classes, and I have been doing daily free Tai Chi and Qigong classes for I guess 6 weeks now. And the how should I say, the participation around the world is just amazing, and people really feel they need something. And like Lama said, you know, it is a good time we all do something and to improve our health. And as far as Dan, you are asking, say, is will we be better, or is it a good thing or bad thing? Yeah, I don't want to get into the extreme things, but I think with a collective wisdom around the world, and we can all helping each other out, and I believe something good will come out. What that is, I am not exactly sure, but I believe something good and nice will come out. Of course, this could be a very painful process for a lot of people, and then maybe today we feel, okay, I'm fine, right? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? And nobody has a crystal ball, and that's how I see it. However, I feel like, you know, every day I'm doing something meaningful, and you know, like doing this free classes, and then I share these things with people, and through that process, and I'm bettering off, and I think a lot of people also are better off. So hopefully, you know, as Lama said, and we all learn a new skill, how to defend ourselves and how, right? I think it's the most important part with this war against coronavirus. It's not as the traditional war. It's the war, you know, and actually a lot of us have to deal with ourselves. Yes, many people, like the healthcare profession, they are at the front line. But the last line, okay, it will be ourselves. Are we strong enough mentally? Are we physically strong? We don't want to defeat it just by fear. And we don't want to be defeated just because we're not very healthy to begin with, right? So that's the last line. We have to be responsible for ourselves somehow. And I think, you know, it is great, and Lama and Dan, you guys spend so much effort and put this together, and then we can spread the message and around the world, and hopefully more people, and you know, will join us and to do Tai Chi and Qigong. Thank you.
I like what you've all said about this. And one way to look at it is that we're all going through a planetary initiation. So beyond good and bad, if you look at shamanic journeys, they aren't like a happy, nice thing. If you look at psychedelic research, when people are doing tripping, it's not a really great, nice thing. There is a journey to be gone through in psychedelic research where people touch the worst parts of themselves. They go to hell, like Aldous Huxley said about heaven and hell. Or a shamanic journey, being out in the woods and being afraid of animals eating you apart and having dreams of dismemberment. And then out of that, something comes. I think you're all right that we don't really know the timing on this, because right now we're going through a transformation that partly we've all wanted in relationship to the earth being healed, and another way of something that we don't want because we don't want to be isolated. And so the amount of time that it's going to take to go through this, there is a wider perspective. The Taoist shaman in each of us knows that something eventually is going to be coming from the earth, from our own spiritual natures, and each of us are going through our own initiation. All we can say as individuals, this is called internal versus external locus of control. We can't control the pace of our leaders deciding to turn this into something good. All we can do, like each of you were talking about, is that each of us go through our own transformative journeys, going into our own selves and incubating a new self based on the whatever it is each of us as individuals are going through.
And we're individuals, and we're also interconnected as energy beings. And so we realize that the locus of control is not really outside or inside of ourselves. Again, this is all the illusion of separation. And so in a sense, on one hand, we're learning how to be a little bit more separate and maintain some degree of boundaries, 6 feet apart. But on the other hand, we learn how much we are actually swimming in this energy soup, and how much the events somewhere in China, the butterfly flapping its wings, causing the storm in the United States.
The bat flapping its wings.
Well, I guess another way to look at originally, if there's no COVID-19, and we will be out in the community and celebrate World Tai Chi Day to, with our community and doing things like that. But with COVID-19, it created another dynamic for us, and with Lama, your effort, and Dancy, your input. And now we're globally, we all connected together. So we are building a much larger community, and then we're all doing this together.
Well, it's interesting. About 15 years ago, I moved from the United States to a tiny little tropical island, 8 miles wide by 22 miles long, called Guam. And I lived there for a few years with all my students 7,000 miles away. Luckily enough, Skype became available right around that time. And so I started video chatting with my students and also with some of my clients. And so I basically was kind of forced to pioneer this whole profession of Qigong coaching. And I've been doing this for all these years. And now, lo and behold, I don't need to convince people that it's actually possible and doable to work with people long distance like this, because, well, we're forced to do it anyway. So now, all of a sudden, the whole profession of Qigong coaching becomes front and center of our activities. It's not maybe called by everyone in by the same name, but we kind of get into that group. Welcome to the 21st century, after all. And what we're doing is also, we are transcending our local boundaries of state or county or the local market, because we can work with people from pretty much any place in the world as long as they have internet connection and speak the same language. We can work with them if they're interested in the subject matter. So what does it mean? It means that now, if we were feeling like, well, there are only so many people in my locale that are interested in Qigong or Tai Chi or similar disciplines, all of a sudden, we have no complaints about that, because the whole world now is available for us to work with, as long as we just become available online as practitioners offering these services. So all of a sudden, we have nothing to complain about in terms of limited market. And also people who are learning how to do this obviously are going through certain stages of development and becoming more and more comfortable with it. And I'm actually offering them my services. So in a sense, I kind of positioned myself way ahead of the curve way back then. But then finally, as the rest of the industry is catching up with me.
You're the visionary, that's great.
I'm helping, yeah. And so I'm actually literally working with a lot of people who are practitioners and professionals in our community, helping them become more successful as Qigong coaches in life. So for me, I have nothing to complain about. I don't think the world is going in the handbasket using your terminology, Diane.
Well, but definitely there are some people out there suffering, and then you know, we talk about the healthcare people, and there are a lot of people, and the blue collar workers, and then they do the delivery, and then you know, their restaurants been closed, and the service industry, they are suffering really, really bad, and then we just need to reach out more to them. And I hope, you know, if anyone and they're at home and you don't have a computer, you don't have internet access, and maybe you can use your cell phone and to join. I think Shelton, your class can be seen on cell phone, right? I think Zoom can do that. And my class definitely, you know, you can view that with your cell phone. It's live stream to my Facebook pages and to YouTube and other platforms as well. So yeah, a lot of people are out there and hanging there, and this is time, you know, we all need to tough up and then also helping each other.
Yes, I'm sorry.
To come full circle, this whole 8 hours has just flown by, and it's really been an amazing experience and an amazing opportunity. And I know that all of these teachers here have great offerings to share. A big part of my mission on this planet and why I wanted to be involved with this sort of thing is I want to see more people doing this, because I want to live in that world where more people are engaging in their own personal daily mind, body, energetic hygiene practices. I created a group on Facebook. It's called the 7-Day Qigong Non-Challenge, because it's designed to be so easy. There can be no excuse not to get started. And this event being live stream free, people have access to all these great teachers. There's so no excuse to not get started with the people who are out there who are shooting on themselves about, oh, they should start exercising, or I should start meditating, and because they know about the benefits for health, wellness, longevity, stress reduction, performance enhancement, and they're just not doing it yet. Well, it's very easy, because you don't have to kill yourself to exercise. You don't have to break a sweat and strain. You can exercise gently, and you don't have to force yourself to sit still to meditate. You can actually get up and move while you're doing it, and you can use your time efficiently. Just 5 to 15 minutes a day of some kind of practice, integrating exercise, breath work, meditation all at the same time. It's the good kind of multitasking, using your time efficiently. It'll change your state, the how you feel in the moment, and consistently over time, it will change your state of being. And
it's 6 o'clock.
This whole my conception of it is it comes back to the non-duality. You are the world you walk through. We are all that is, and the having a picture of perfect health in mind is a picture of perfect health for you, also for the world you live in. You can't see yourself growing in a world that's dying, or you can't see yourself fully healthy in a world that's sick. You have to see a healthy self in a healthy external reality, and and that we're all interconnected as a species, as the interconnected web of life. And I am really thrilled and honored to be here kind of in the middle of it, in the eye of the hurricane of all these great teachings and offerings that people can use to transform themselves and the reality that we all share from the inside out. So this is a great way to wrap up. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this, and I'm looking forward to continuing this lifelong mind-body mastery journey that we're all on. So with that, any final parting words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Is something, I'm sorry, go ahead, Loma.
Oh, I was just saying ladies first.
Well, I have nothing but a big thank you. And thank you for watching also.
Wonderful.
Blessings to all of you for staying safe and using what's going on to transform your lives.
Yeah, and I would say sending out a virtual hug and a virtual love to everybody out there, just by sending that out there. And always remember, bring it back to yourself, LOVE, and love yourself, love one another. Be blessed.
Wonderful. Well, and just another note to kind of wrap up what we've experienced today. We've explored quite a bit of different approaches and variations on the theme of resilience and immunity. But of course, these are not the only two topics to talk about. So obviously we could cover a lot of ground beyond resilience and immunity subjects. But I think it boils down to actually focusing quite a bit on those topics, because that's what keeps us healthy and that's what keeps us sane. And as a matter of fact, even if we are going through tough times, if we are experiencing suffering, resilience is exactly what allows us to keep going. I think I would be quoting Winston Churchill if he said, if you're going through hell, just don't stop. Now, I certainly don't think that we are even going through hell. I think this is a major bifurcation point in the journey of the humankind in our history. Why do I think that way? Because the environmental collapse is happening despite all our best efforts, because the economy is going the way it's going. You know, the oil prices and various stock markets are going through the trials and tribulations. But what is it going to mean? It's going to mean that things are not going to be the same. Is it going to be change? Hell yeah, it's going to be change. It's guaranteed. It's the most constant thing in the universe. Will we be able to adapt to change? Now that's the question. If we can adapt to change, we can thrive no matter how much change happens. If we cannot adapt, then we will be struggling and suffering. Now, I obviously would not be the first person to point out that Tai Chi is one of those arts that actually teaches us how to experience change. Qigong obviously is another one of those arts. If we learn these arts, we become experts in feeling the change and adapting to it. That's exactly what we would call resilience. If we put these skills to good use in our daily lives, then we go beyond our studio, beyond our dojo where we're practicing these arts. We actually start living these arts. That's why I always say, look, don't just expect to learn a Qigong lifestyle, a Qigong style from me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you Qigong lifestyle. We're going to learn how to apply all the principles of energy awareness to our daily lives. So wherever you go, there you are. You bring with you your resources, your awareness, and your ability to adapt to the flow of changes so that you can be in the flow. Who wouldn't want that? So on this note, Dane, do you have anything else to add before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to make sure that everyone who's watching this live or on the recording knows that all of these teachers have amazing offerings online, and those links are included in the material for these with this video. So I say that, of course, because it's not just about getting this taste. This taste is here for, it's like a buffet. You can try different things, see what you like, and if you are called to go deeper, then these teachers are all there to support you. These are all experienced teachers who are experienced not just with teaching, but with teaching online, and they're here to support you in your lifelong mind-body mastery journey. So maybe the most important thing from this is don't let it end here. You know, we're spreading a lot of great energy with this event and participating in a global wave of health and healing and one world, one breath on one day, and it's great and all, but don't let it end here. The medicine compounds over time. It's like compounding interest if you practice a little bit each day. So follow up with yourself, with your own practice. Incorporate the things. If you just found one thing here that you liked, just do that every day for a few days and see how it feels. And know that these teachers are here to support you to go deeper on that journey. So I want to encourage all of us to connect and support and learn from each other. And I thank everyone again for being involved and being a part of this and for all the great work. So I think we are, I think we're at the end of our time today, but it's been a pleasure, and I'll look forward to seeing all of you again soon.